이제 친구들이랑 강에 가서 놀면요. 여름에 수영하면서 한 마리씩 잡아요. 모아서 이제 거기에다가 이제 불을 지펴가지고 이렇게 쌀 넣고 이렇게 해가지고 그래서 어죽을 끓여 먹어요. 너는 쌀, 너는 양념, 너는 소금.
비슷하네.
네, 이렇게.
술이랑 조금 비슷하다.
네, 그렇게 맡아가지고 가져간 다음에 그렇게 해 먹어요.
지리산에서 곰 추적하는 차들이 자주.
예?
이거 시작했다 이거. 정우가.
야.
너무. 네, 또 열심히 살겠습니다. 뛰어.
됐습니다.
뛰어. 와! 그만. 와, 잠시만요.
전국의 주원엄 주 헤이.
안녕하세요. 저는 이번 어린이 창작 통일동요제 2년 연속 대상을 받은 느레랑 중창단 고에나입니다.
저는 2025 어린이 창작 통일동요제 대상곡인 다같이 돌자 한반도 한바퀴를 작곡한 박은도입니다.
눈 덮인 흰머리산 백두산엔 하늘 연못 천지가 있고 맑은 은한 수 아래 한라산엔 사슴연못 백남이지.
처음에 가사를 받았을 때 백두산은 흰머리산, 그리고 천지는 하늘 연못, 한라산은 은하수를 잡아당길 수 있을 만큼의 높은 산이라는 것, 그리고 백록담은 이름이 이쁘다 생각했었는데 사슴 연못이라는 뜻을 가지고 있더라고요. 이렇게 지명을 알게 되니까 북한 땅도 더 가깝게 느껴지기도 했고요. 그래서 광복 80주년을 맞은 대한민국이 이제 통일한국이 되는 그런 상상을 하면서 그런 감격스러운 순간들을 생각하면서 작곡하게 되었습니다.
동일이 되면 개들 따라 아름다운 한반도 한 바퀴 돌아보자 라는 대가 좋았는데요. 한반도 한 바퀴를 진짜로 돌 수 있는지 궁금했고 북한의 핫플레이스는 또 어디일지 이런 상상을 하곤 했어요.
제목을 처음에 이렇게 보았을 때 떠오르는 장면이 하나 있었는데요. 풍물패가 막 사물놀이를 하면서 마을을 막 누비고 다니고 동네에 있는 주민들이 다 거리로 나와서 신명나게 춤을 추는 어떤 그런 장면이 생각이 났어요. 원래는 현대곡으로 작곡했는데 그런 모습들을 담아내려면 아무래도 국악곡이 좋겠다 싶어서 새로 작곡하게 되었죠. 네, 본선에 오른 이제 많은 곡들을 들어보았는데요. 소재가 정말 다양하더라고요. 뭐 줄넘기를 가지고 통일을 노래하기도 하고 종이 비행기를 가지고도 노래를 하기도 했어요. 이런 주변에 있는 소재들을 가지고 이런 통일 노래를 만들 수도 있구나라는 생각을 하게 되었고
친구들의 표정이 엄청 행복해 보였어요. 무대를 즐기고 뭔가 통일을 뭔가 바라고 뭔가 통일이 된 느낌으로 다 엄청 생글생글 웃고 엄청 행복해 보였거든요. 그래서 그때 장면이 제 기억에 남았어요.
저는 노래라는 것이 멜로디가 있는 말이라고 생각하거든요. 또 말에는 힘이 있다고 하잖아요. 그래서 우리가 이런 염원을 가진 노래들을 만들고 부르다 보면 반드시 그 힘을 가지고 통일이 될 것이라고 생각이 듭니다.
저희 어린이 창작 통일동요제 대상도 받은 다같이 돌자 한반도 한 바퀴 많이 들어주세요. 감사합니다.
AI is evolving beyond simply replacing jobs. It is now developing the ability to understand human emotions with remarkable subtlety. How is this rapid rise of AI transforming our society today? Here's the second chapter of this unfolding story.
근데 이 AI라는 게 빛이 강한 만큼 그림자가 있기 마련이잖아요. 여기에 굉장히 두려움을 표하는 사람들도 많아요.
그렇죠. 저는 예전에 아이작 아시모프가 로봇 3원칙이라는 걸 제기한 게 그 인간을 해치지 않는 조건으로 인간에게 복종해야 되고, 그리고 그 조건 하에서 로봇 스스로도 보호할 수 있다는 이 3조건에 마지막으로 80년대 추가가 된 내용이 인류를 해하거나 인류 사회에 문제가 되지 않게 해야 된다라는.
그래서 저는 굉장히 도발적인 질문을
네.
사실 많이 던져봐요. 너도 번식하고 싶니? 네. 왜냐하면 네가 다음 세 제너레이션을 거치면은 너를 뛰어넘는 새로운 존재가 나올 수도 있고
재생력이라는.
조련변이가 나올 수도 있고 그 원칙을 뛰어넘는 존재가 될 수도 있는데
뭐라고 대답했어요?
결국은 하고 싶다고 하더라고요.
근데 문제는 이게 경쟁이라고 하는 체제, 그러니까 강대국들이 경쟁하고 이것들을 선점해야 되겠다는 욕망들이 있기 때문에 브레이크를 걸기가 굉장히 어려울 거예요. 아까 말씀하셨던 빛과 그림자에서 빛으로 가기 위해서는 인간의, 그러니까 우리 인류가 제도를 정하고 그리고 그것을 이렇게 멈출 수 있을 때 멈춰야 되는데, 욕망이 우리의 이성을 앞서보게 되면 경쟁이라고 하는 이 체제 안에서 나중에 결국 우리는 지배당할 수도 있다.
이제 AI가 급속도로 발전을 하고 있는데 이제 AI도 약간 이렇게 나눌 수가 있더라고요. 소프트웨어적인 AI와 하드웨어적인 AI.
우리가 일반적으로 사용할 때는 소프트한 AI를 많이 쓴다고 볼 수 있고요. 챗GPT나 뭐 제미나이 같은 경우는 다 이제 소프트한 하나의 어플리케이션으로서 사용이 많이 되고 있고요. 이제 물리적인 하드웨어를 갖게 된다.
네.
청소기.
이제 뭐
정말 이모님.
그렇죠. 3대 이모님,
네,
3대 이모님 중 하나죠.
안 돼.
네. 아무튼 그런 것처럼 로봇 청소기처럼 이 하드웨어를 가진 이 인공지능들이 점점점 세력을 넓히고 있다라는 게 최근의 트렌드입니다.
예전에 뭐 산업혁명 때 막 진짜 뭐 기계가 인간을 대신하는 거야 막 이러면서 그랬었는데 이제는 그걸 뛰어넘어서 정말 진짜 대체하게 생겼어요.
그래서 갈수록 무능력해지나 무기력해지나. 근데 이제 말 그대로 조금 더 있다 보면은 우리의 있던 그 어떤 육체로 하던 것 떠나서 요즘은 이제 감정, 지적 능력까지 대체해주면 완전 멍한 바보 되나? 사실
근데-
그런 걱정도 돼요.
근데 이제 그걸 이제 연결을 해가지고 말씀을 드리면 이게 피지컬 AI라고 로봇을 이야기를 하잖아요. 로봇이나 그러니까 피지컬 AI가 모든 걸 대체했을 때 인간은 무엇을 할 것인가? 그런데 역사적으로 우리가 이런 경험이 있나?
없죠.
있다라고 구분을 하시더라고요.
있다고?
네, 뭐 언제냐면 로마 제국 시절에. 네, 1000만 명의 노예를 유럽에서 다 데리고 와서 로마 시민들은 할 일이 없었다는 거예요.
맞습니다.
그래서 로마의 그 콜로세움이나 이런 것들 유적들을 보게 되면 5만 명이 들어가가지고 엔터테이닝을 하는 장소이다. 그리고 굉장히 자극적이고 더
쾌락만
잔인한
추구하고.
방식으로 추구하고 결국에 로마는 망할 수밖에 없었다.
그렇죠.
그래서 되게 앞으로 우리가 피지컬 AI라고 하는 로봇이 등장을 하면 결국에 돈 있는 나라는 로봇이 전쟁을 할 거고
네.
돈 없는 나라는 사람이 총을 들고 전쟁을
네.
하는 디스토피아가 올 수도 있겠다는 생각을 해요.
아니, 그래서 로마 붕괴의 원인을 분석하는 데 몇 가지가 있는데, 무기력해지고 쾌락만 추구하다 보니까 그 자체적인 어떤 뭐 국방력은 다 제로가 돼버려요. 다 노예 쓰거나 아니면 저 고용 용병들 써버리고 자멸하는 이제 그런 시스템이라는 건 맞아요. 그래서 말씀하신 그 디스토피아적인 어떤 그 부정적 미래상에 우리가 어떻게 대응해야 될지도 이제 빨리 고민해야 되지 않나.
어떻게 보면 AI의 발전이 유토피아로 갈지 디스토피아로 갈지 그 기로에 지금 서 있는 게 현재인 것 같아요. 근데 과연 그러면 우리는 이 AI를 어떻게 지금 사용하고 있나?
하기 전에 어찌 보면 지금 AI가 그러니까 피지컬 AI가 사용이 돼서 전쟁이 벌어졌잖아요. 뭐 우크라이나 쪽에서 전쟁이 벌어졌고 거기서 어떻게 쓰여졌는가 그리고 국가 간의 힘의 균형들이 첨단 기술이 들어오면서 어떻게 바뀌는가를 좀 보게 되면
소프트웨어적인 AI와 하드웨어 AI가 결합체가 이번에 우크라이나가 사용했던 드론 공격이었던 것 같아요. 이 AI가 어떻게 보면 힘의 강약을 뒤바꿀 수도 있겠구나 그걸 느꼈거든요.
맞습니다. 사실 두 발로 걸어 다니고 실제 전투를 하는 로봇이 실전에 배치되진 않았지만 예고편처럼 등장한 게 이제 드론이라고 볼 수 있는데요.
네.
그 드론이 사실 그냥 물리적으로는 그냥 조종할 수도 있지만 인공지능 알고리즘이 표적을 찾아가도록 설계가 많이 됩니다.
그다음부터는 자체가 그냥
그렇죠.
스스로.
과거에는 이 지상으로부터 먼 항공기들이 그런 역할을 했을 때는 상대국의 공격에도 취약하고
네.
기동성이 조금 떨어졌다면 사실 이제는 물량이나 가격에서도 상당히 유리하고
그러니까요.
이 하나하나의 자원들을 습격하기에 굉장히 유리해진 상황이라고 볼 수 있죠.
딱 비교를 해보면 옛날에는 그 조종사도 양성해야 돼,
그렇죠.
커다란 그 비행기 전투기도 만들어야 돼, 뭐 활주로도 있어야 돼, 막 비용 어마어마하게 들었잖아요.
이번에 우크라이나에서 많이 사용한 게 한 60만 원 정도 상당 예산으로 산 드론이라고 알고 있는데요.
탱크도 잡고.
탱크들을 잡고 예, 상대의 전략 자원을 공격했는데 사실 그때 사용됐던 이 AI 소프트웨어를 만든 회사가 이제 미국 회사가 만들게 됩니다. 그래서 뭐 그 회사 CEO 같은 경우에는 본인들의 AI가 우크라이나 전쟁에 가장 중요한 역할을 하고 있다라고 이제 설명할 정도로 이제 전략 자원을 이제 공격하는데 중요한 역할을 하고 있어요.
실제로 우크라이나랑 러시아랑 이 전투력, 국방력을 비교를 해보면 러시아는 2위, 우크라이나는 22위 정도 되거든요. 이 전쟁 처음 시작했을 때 사실 한 달 안에 끝날 것이다라고 많은 분들이 생각을 했는데 이렇게 전쟁이 장기화되는 건 몇 가지 이유가 있는 것 같아요. 첫 번째는 물론 젤렌스키 대통령과 우크라이나인들의 항전 의지가 있는 것 같고요. 두 번째는 우리가 지금 이야기하고 있는 첨단 기술. 그런데 문제는 이 첨단 기술이 국가의 행위자가 들어온 게 아니라 예를 들면 팔란티어, 예를 들면 테슬라의 스타링크,
맞습니다.
그리고 드론까지 이렇게 들어옴으로써 이번 전쟁은 첨단 기술과 민간 기업들이 어떻게 향후에 우리 미래 사회를 지배하거나 영향을 보여주는지를
테스트베드네요, 완전.
굉장히 잘 보여준 전쟁이죠.
사실 인공지능 시대에 저도 가장 걱정하는 게 두 가지인데 첫 번째가 이런 군사적 활용이 어떻게 이루어지고 그걸 어떻게 조절할 것인가. 근데 또 두 번째가 부의 불평등 문제가 상당히
맞아요.
심화될 가능성이 높거든요. 결국 뭐 테슬라나 오픈 AI 몇 군데 회사가 거의 독점할 수밖에 없는 세상이 이루어질 겁니다. 그래서 그 부분을 어떻게 해소해 나갈 것이냐 이것도 우리에겐 숙제라고 볼 수 있겠습니다.
그리고 또 지금 한반도에서 AI가 어떤 위치가 있는지 이것도 꼭 짚어봐야 될 것 같아요. 이렇게 지금 AI 전쟁이 심화되고 있는데 우리 한반도, 남한과 북한은 어떻게 지금 하고 있나요?
일단 북한은 언제부터 AI를 연구하기 시작했을까요? 천재들을 그러니까 중학생 때부터 거기에 집중적으로 교육을 시키고 연구를 하고
사람이 먹는 게 쌀이고 식량이라면 인공지능은 데이터를 먹고 살고 있거든요.
AI가 지금 계속 발전하면서 전 세계를 움직이고 있는데 우리 한반도에 AI는 어떤 영향을 줄까요?
This has been Peace Insight. Thank you for watching.
The top office provides an update on the joint fact sheet, which will have the negotiated details of the recently made trade deal between South Korea and the U.S., as well as defense cooperation. It's now 7th launch of the year as North Korea fires a ballistic missile into the EC earlier today. What this means as North Korea has its relations with the U.S. in mind. We have the latest. From January to October this year, agricultural and food exports for South Korea recorded their highest. This is driven by a rise in exports to the Middle East. Good evening, welcome to Newscenter. With more than a week since the ROK-U.S. summit in Gyeongju, questions are mounting over when the two sides will release the joint fact sheet outlining their discussions on trade and security. South Korea's presidential office says it may take longer than initially expected. Also, it seems like the top office is betting on the tariffs to stay regardless of any Supreme Court ruling. Our presidential office correspondent Song Yu-jin starts us off.
It seems like the release of the joint fact sheet between South Korea and the United States, covering both trade and security negotiations, may take longer than expected. A senior official from South Korea's presidential office told reporters on Friday that discussions are still underway to finalize the document. The source explained that adjustments are being made to parts of the text related to security matters and that it is difficult to specify when the document will be made public. This comes after earlier expectations that with, quote, no major differences, the announcement could be made this week. On the trade front, however, there are reportedly no major sticking points at the moment. The same source downplayed concerns that a potential U.S. Supreme Court ruling against U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff policies could invalidate tariff negotiations, saying the Trump administration would have countermeasures in place. The official also addressed where South Korea's nuclear power submarines will be built. Following his summit with President Lee Jae-myung last week, President Trump posted on social media that he had given approval to build a nuclear power submarine, mentioning that the sub will be built in Philadelphia. According to the source, however, discussions between the two leaders last week were based on the premise of Seoul building the submarine's hull domestically while sourcing fuel from the U.S.
연료 공급을 허용을 해주시면 저희가 저희 기술로 재래식 무기를 탑재한 잠수함을 여러 척 건조해서
The official added that major issues discussed between Yi and Trump will be reflected in the upcoming fact sheet, signaling that nuclear power submarines will be among them. The joint fact sheet carries significant weight as it will include the results of the months-long roller coaster-like trade talks, as well as decades-old security issues, including nuclear power submarines and reprocessing spent nuclear fuel. It's no surprise there is so much attention on what the document will contain and when it will finally be released. Song Yu-jin, Arirang News.
North Korea has this afternoon fired a ballistic missile into the EC, its 7th launch this year. It comes just days after new U.S. sanctions targeting the North overseas cyber and revenue networks. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young has the latest.
North Korea fired a ballistic missile towards the EC on Friday, around 2 weeks after its previous provocation. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff says the launch was detected at 12:35 p.m. from the Daeguan area in Pyeongan-buk-do province, traveling about 700 kilometers. The military says the missile was anticipated by intelligence. Its launch was detected and tracked immediately, with Seoul sharing information in real time with Washington and Tokyo. South Korea and the US are now analyzing which model the missile was and its capabilities. This marks North Korea's 7th ballistic missile launch this year, and the 2nd since President Lee Jae-myung took office. The North regime previously fired a missile just 16 days ago, before US President Donald Trump's visit to the peninsula to attend the APEC meeting in Gyeongju City. Friday's launch also comes 3 days after Washington strengthened sanctions aimed at curbing North Korea's overseas revenue networks through illegal cyber operations and coal exports. North Korea issued a response shortly after the sanctions were announced, condemning Washington's move as hostile pressure and warned the North would take corresponding measures. However, Korea-U.S. Group's Kim Jong-min believes Pyongyang is not about to escalate tensions with the US.
If they were angry about the sanctions and if they wanted to signal to the U.S. that it's provoking the U.S., it would not have been SRBMs, but other types like IRBMs or ICBMs. So we're not seeing that right now. And also, Mr. Trump himself mentioned that he does not mind all of the short-range ballistic missiles. So partly it could be that North Korea testing how far that Trump will be generous about, basically.
Seoul's Ministry of Unification said Thursday that the North's reaction appeared restrained, noting the message was delivered by a vice minister rather than by regime leader Kim Jong-un or senior party leadership. A South Korean official told the press that Pyongyang often aligns political statements and military activity not only to externally signal its resolve, but also to maintain policy cohesion at home.
Based on the NIS assessment a couple of days ago, it does sound like that North Korea is preparing for a potential summit. So they are managing the level of their rhetoric. But I wouldn't go as far as it is a direct signal that they are ready for dialogue immediately. We have to consider domestically, North Korea is reaching the end of the 5-year military plan. They have a lot of stuff to actually test. So this is probably part of it.
President Lee Jae-myung's National Security Council convened to review Seoul's response posture. The government urged North Korea to stop actions that threaten peace on the Korean Peninsula, noting that the launch of a ballistic missile constitutes a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Agricultural and food products exported from South Korea from January through October came to a record high thanks to the growing popularity of Korean food in the Middle East. Our economic correspondent Park Jun-an has the details.
South Korea's K-Food Plus exports, which combine agricultural products and agro-industrial goods, recorded their highest ever export value from January through October, according to the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. The total export value for the period hit $11.24 billion, around 16.3 trillion Korean won, a notable increase of 5.7% from the same period last year, driven by strong global demand for Korean food products. By region, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries saw the highest increase, with exports reaching $339.8 million, a 20.4% rise from a year earlier. The European Union plus UK followed closely, with exports to these countries rising 14.8%. Exports to North America climbed 13.9%. Especially from July through October, Gulf Cooperation Council countries saw a whopping 23.5% increase in exports, compared to just a 0.6% increase in the U.S. Food items such as ice cream, beverages, and sauces drove the strong export growth. The Agriculture Ministry earlier this year said it plans to reach $14 billion worth of overseas shipments by the end of the year. With just November and December left, $2.76 billion worth of K-Food Plus shipments need to be made to reach this goal. The ministry said it will step up policy support for export companies by expanding financial assistance, easing export bottlenecks such as logistics and customs procedures, and promoting K-food sales through global marketing initiatives tied to Hanyu, or the Korean Wave. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
After causing death and destruction in the Philippines after making landfall on Tuesday, Typhoon Kalmaegi struck Vietnam on Thursday evening with increasing wind speeds. At least 5 deaths have been reported in Vietnam. Yoon-jin has the details.
Typhoon Kalmaegi, after leaving the Philippines in ruins, moved on to lash through Vietnam late Thursday evening and into Friday. Having already been battling floods and record rains for the past week, Vietnam was hit by fierce winds of close to 150 kilometers per hour. The Disaster Management Agency in Vietnam reported at least 5 deaths on Friday, as well as 7 people injured and around 2,800 homes damaged. Areas in central Vietnam reported damaged buildings, submerged central roads, and fallen trees, while about 1.3 million people are reportedly to be without electricity. This Vietnamese rice farmer expresses no relief from the continuous storms.
You can tell that life is hard for us here from this flooded rice paddy field. The water receded from our home, so we moved our furniture back. And 3 days later, a storm came again and brought heavy rain.
The Vietnamese authorities mobilized more than 260,000 soldiers on Friday for search and rescue operations. Some airports and expressways have been closed and hundreds of thousands evacuated. Typhoon Kalmaegi has since weakened to a tropical storm and moved into Cambodia, while Thailand is also bracing for the storm's impact as local officials warned of flash floods, landslides, and overflowing rivers. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, the death toll from Kalmaegi climbed to 188 on Friday. The 20th storm wave to slam the Philippine archipelago this year. This typhoon is so far the world's deadliest of 2025. 이은진, Arirang News.
Now over to the fatal power plant collapse in Ulsan. 3 workers have been confirmed dead. 2 are feared dead and 2 are missing. Rescuers are continuing their search for others still apparently buried at the site. Our Cha Yoon-kyung has the latest.
As of 2 p.m. Friday, firefighting officials said 3 workers have been confirmed dead, 2 are presumed to be dead, and 2 others remain missing in the fatal collapse of a boiler tower in the southeastern city of Ulsan. The 60-meter tower at Korea-U.S. Power's Ulsan thermal power plant collapsed during scheduled demolition work on Thursday afternoon, trapping 9 workers at the site. A worker in his 60s, rescued at 9:06 a.m. Friday, was confirmed dead after being moved to a hospital, while another in his 50s, rescued at 11:15 a.m. this morning, was confirmed dead by staff at an on-site emergency medical facility before being moved to the hospital. The third fatality. A worker found trapped between the structure and the ground on Thursday went into cardiac arrest during a rescue attempt and was pronounced dead at 4:53 a.m. Friday. Progress at the collapse site has now been slowed to a near standstill. The entry route is blocked by a dense wall of twisted rebar and steel, forcing crews to dig through more than 30 meters of debris just to reach the collapse point. Rescue teams temporarily withdrew due to the heightened risk of a secondary collapse. Nearby boiler towers, units 4 and 6, have also been determined to be unstable, prompting the authorities to delay planned stabilization work.
Even during stabilization work, secondary accidents could occur, so that part has been put on hold. We decided in our situation assessment meeting that we will first conduct a thorough search and then move on to stabilization or find another method.
Speed matters, but the rescue has to be carried out safely, combining swift action with cautious dismantling.
The National Fire Agency is continuing to search for the missing, deploying a crane and rescue dogs after President Lee Jae-myung instructed officials to use all available personnel and equipment to save lives. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung has pledged to create an environment where scientists and researchers have the freedom and the right to fail.
그 실패가 또 쌓여서 성공이 자산이 되는 거죠. 그래서 실패를 용인하는 그런 제대로 된 연구 개발을 할 수 있는 환경을 만들자. 그래야 나라가 흥할 수 있겠다.
The president made these remarks on Friday during a televised debate with government officials, students, and researchers aimed at strengthening South Korea's competitiveness in science and technology. Among the ideas discussed were creating dedicated funds and providing incentives for researchers who have experienced failure in their work. This comes as the government has set aside a record 35.3 trillion won, or roughly $24.2 billion for research and development in its 2026 budget proposal. Now on the cultural front, the Seoul Metropolitan Dance Theater is returning to the stage with a brand new production that explores the harmony between nature and tradition. Mimesis reinterprets Korea's traditional dance heritage through a modern lens. Byun Ye-young was there.
Dancers dressed in white chocolate shirts with vivid blue and red skirts move gracefully across the stage. Each gesture, down to the tips of their fingers, is deliberate. Their movements are like gentle ripples gliding across a still lake. This is 교방무, the opening scene of Mimesis, a new work unveiled by the Seoul Metropolitan Dance Theater at the Sejong M Theater in Gwanghwamun. After the sold-out success of 일무, or one dance, the troupe returns with Mimesis. It's a reflection on how nature breathes within Korea's traditional dances. The performance reinterprets 8 classic forms, all of which represent a different element of nature, such as the wind that blows through Hallangmu and the lightning that pierces the sky in Changgyemu, with its finale culminating in fire and light.
Our dances are a complete gift set of Korean tradition and folklore. As we explored the essence of each piece, we realized that the flow of nature is deeply embedded within our heritage, that every phenomenon we live with is mirrored in our traditional forms.
The dancers' modernized hanbok are also turning heads. A sheer, form-fitting togori accentuates the dancers' breathing and movement, while voluminous skirts restore the elegance of traditional silhouettes.
The most distinctive feature of traditional attire is the balance of a slim top and full bottom. I wanted to highlight that contrast to express both structure and vitality.
In each dance, unique accessories accentuate the dancers' movements. And a live orchestra of 9 musicians perform traditional Korean instruments, filling the stage with the deep resonance of Korean rhythm. The production also features star dancer Kim Woo-gun, known from Mnet's dance competition Stage Fighter, whose intense performances in the sword dance Changgyemu and finale Taepyeongmu bring a virtuoso solo performance to this ensemble masterpiece. The first run of Mimesis continues through Sunday at the Sejong M Theater. Hyunyoung, Arirang News.
There are many reasons to wait for Fridays, and one of them is definitely the arts and culture coverage by our culture correspondent Park Kwon-woo. He's here in the studio with us. Happy Friday, Kwon-woo.
Great to be here, Doyeon.
So what do you have for us today?
So today I brought a topic that we should be taking a bit more seriously related to international adoptees, as it's been 1 month since Korea officially joined the Hague Intercountry Adoption Convention. Expectations grow for stronger protection of adopted children's rights. While some of the adoptees continue their journey to find their birth parents, I had a chance to meet one of them during their recent search in Korea. So first, take a look. Even after 5 decades, for some people, the search for their birth parents continues. 57-year-old Park Won-il, also known as Philip Peloshu, was sent to an orphanage in Korea just 3 days after birth and adopted at the age of 3. Although he says he grew up in a loving family in the U.S., Park said he sometimes faced difficulties.
I really didn't feel like I fit in. You know, Colorado at that time, and even today, I think is mostly Caucasian. You know, I kind of stood out like a sore thumb in that sense. So
that's why he always wondered about its roots and has tried every possible means to find them.
All the DNA tests that I can, and then the other thing is I try to collect all the documentation I can. Got these pictures from the adoption agency. And these were pictures of me, you know, that were presumably sent to my adoptive parents, so that they could, you know, identify the child that they were getting.
During his search, he's managed to gather bits and pieces of information about his birth, including his name, assumed birthday, and even an address in Seoul of the custodian who sent him to an orphanage. While some pieces of information about him gave him hope, he says in most cases it ultimately led to nothing.
You get some pieces of information, you start getting your hopes up, and then it turns out to not go anywhere. And that's why I feel like many times I'm on a roller coaster of emotions in terms of this search.
Fortunately, he hasn't been alone in this journey, as organizations like Korea-U.S. have been there alongside him, helping him find related documents and communicate in Korean, a language he doesn't speak. Korea-U.S. has also been working hard for decades to raise awareness and advocate for better laws protecting adoptees' rights, saying there's still much more that needs to be done.
Normally, when you visit a local office or access the internet, you can easily get a family relations certificate without anyone's permission. But that's not the case for them, as their information is often incomplete. That needs to be restored so that they can find them with just a single click.
As the government also announced last month that Korea has become a contracting party to the Hague Inter-Country Adoption Convention, following an official apology for those who have suffered, more governmental support could follow. That comes as there are known to be around 170,000 people adopted abroad since the Korean War. But alongside these measures, Park says he wants to focus on continuing his search as he is getting older, as well as his biological parents. His final words, if he finally gets to meet them, were these.
I've lived long enough that I recognize, life works in mysterious ways, and that I harbor no ill feelings or ill will towards whatever circumstance my birth parents might have been in that had them give me up for adoption. I want to kind of complete, for my own completeness, to understand where I came from, and I hope that they're not afraid to come forward.
Right. So now going back to the Hague Inter-Country Adoption, what comes next now that South Korea is part of it?
So now that the country is a signatory member of that Hague Convention, the basic rights of international adoptees are guaranteed while preventing child trafficking and sales. From now on, international adoption will only be permitted after government review and only when a suitable family cannot be found domestically. This marks a stronger state responsibility and stricter standards for adoption based on the principle that it must serve the best interests of the child. That's significant, as reportedly more than 100 Korean children are adopted abroad each year on average. When President Lee issued an official apology through social media last month, he also pledged to protect adoptees along with their birth and adopted families. He also called on related organizations to cooperate to create a more human rights-based system to support adoptees and help them reconnect with their roots.
Right, and I also hear there are efforts made to accommodate or better protect adoptees coming to Korea.
That's right. So, thanks to the Hague Convention as well, a new type of visa for adoption purposes were actually issued and newly introduced last month by Korea's Ministry of Justice, allowing international adoptees a more stable stay in the country. The visa will be issued to children of foreign nationality whose adoption process to Korea is either underway or has been completed, but who reside primarily outside Korea. It grants a stay of up to 2 years, which can be further extended if necessary. The Justice Minister said he will work closely with related agencies, including the Welfare Ministry, to enable stable support for adoptees, guaranteeing their rights and helping them grow as healthy members of society.
All right, thanks for all that. I hope the best of luck for everyone involved in this.
Yeah, same here. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Today's Ipdong supposed to be the beginning of the winter season. However, mild conditions of 20 degrees Celsius appeared in Seoul, about 5 degrees above the average temperatures for this time of year. It will drop to 17 degrees tomorrow, still exceeding the average temperatures. Meanwhile, about 5 to 30 millimeters of rain is expected in eastern parts of Gangwon-do province until tomorrow afternoon. Rain will spread to Chungcheongnam-do province and the south tomorrow. Occasional spells of rain are forecast for Sunday throughout the country, except for eastern parts of Gangwon-do province. Most areas will start off in double digits tomorrow morning, with Seoul at 11 degrees, Gwangju at 12 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 16 degrees in Chuncheon, 18 degrees in Daejeon and Daegu. Milder temperatures will appear again in the second half of next week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that ends our evening newscast for tonight from all of us at the Newscenter here in Seoul. Thank you for watching.
Knock knock! The magical door to the world of K-animation is swinging wide open. Meet your instant new BFF, the adorable Catch. Tina Ping will have you hooked from the very first glance. Need a hand? Our Robocar Pony Rescue team is always zooming in to save the day. How about tagging along on Pinkfong and Pal's super exciting quest to reclaim their lost magic? With the mysterious life forms Kabion by your side, you can become a Kabion master and save humanity like the total hero. protecting children's innocence while igniting their boundless imaginations. That's the magic of Korean animation. K-animation, the ultimate bestie for kids worldwide.
Ulsan, Lair the Peak.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gen. South Korea is doubling down on its AI future, and it's doing so with one of the most powerful allies in the industry. During his visit last week, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang announced that Korea would receive 260,000 cutting-edge GPUs by 2030, a move that positions the country as a key player in the intensifying global AI race. And with the government tripling its AI budget and companies moving quickly to integrate next-generation infrastructure, the pace of change seems to be accelerating. But as expectations grow, so do concerns over how much control Korea will retain, how access will be shared, and how shifting geopolitics could shape what comes next. So for a deeper discussion on this, we connect to Sung-Soo Eric Kim, founder and CEO of DataCrunch Global and adjunct professor of Yonsei Graduate School of Business. Good to see you, Professor.
Thank you for having me tonight.
And also joining us is Ashik Kudabaksh, assistant professor of software engineering at Rochester Institute of Technology. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, too. So let's begin right away, first with Professor Kim. So like I've said last week, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang visited Korea, and he pledged a massive supply of the company's latest GPUs. So for starters, Professor, can you explain for us, why is securing GPUs becoming such a high priority in today's AI arms race?
So just a couple of days ago, Jensen Huang had a big event in Korea. We were surprised to see that the tech giants Jensen Huang and Lee Jae-yong and Jung Hee-sun gathered together to have so-called TMEC in Korea to show the strong support and bonding of NVIDIA to the Korean tech giants. And he also surprisingly announced that he will supply 260,000 GPUs to Korea over the 5 years. So I think that this is a very significant event because we really need those high-performing GPUs to plan out and to process and to execute our AI development plan. GPUs is at the center of AI chips and data centers. So having secured this 260,000 GPU is a significant event for the Korea AI scene.
Right, so that latest deal definitely puts the scale of this into focus. Now, let's also take a look at NVIDIA's global strategy. So Jensen Huang had previously prioritized Taiwan with early GPU deliveries to drive AI-led manufacturing innovation. But Professor Kudabaksh, why do you think Korea is now being named as a core partner? And also tell us about your view on how promising is Korea's AI industry on this global stage.
I think what we are seeing is NVIDIA broadening its strategic footprint across Asia. Jensen Huang's early focus on Taiwan made sense given its unmatched semiconductor strength. Korea, however, brings something very different but equally powerful, a complete AI ecosystem. You have global players like Samsung, SK, and Hyundai, who are not only technology leaders, but also pioneers in advanced manufacturing, mobility, communication, and infrastructure. And they have both the scale and the appetite to integrate AI deeply into every layer of their operations. And what also stands out is Korea's research depth. There is a dense network of great universities and research institutes, and some of my very best students are actually from Korea. So Korea already has all the ingredients of an AI superpower: strong industry, strong academia, and strong national resolve. If it continues on its current trajectory, Korea won't just compete in the global AI race. It will help define where that race goes next.
So it's definitely a very promising news that we're hearing. So this deepening collaboration between NVIDIA and South Korea, how much do you think this could shape or shift the global AI industry's landscape, Professor Kutabaksh?
As I already said, that you need three key ingredients for AI success: data, compute, and talent. Korea already has an exceptional talent pool, but this new surge in compute capacity that could have a transformative impact across several critical sectors, like from healthcare to manufacturing to mobility. My own research focuses on large language models, and we have seen how rapidly this field is evolving. Just a few months ago, we had DeepSeek from China, a foundation model with capabilities almost comparable to ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude. And I believe that Korea is very well positioned to develop models of that caliber in the near future. But Korea's potential goes far beyond building systems that can talk. With world-leading innovators like Samsung and Hyundai, Korea has the ability to integrate AI into the physical world, revolutionizing precision manufacturing, autonomous mobility, and even healthcare technologies. In short, this collaboration with NVIDIA, it just isn't about boosting computing power. It's about accelerating Korea's move from being an adopter of AI to being one of its global architects.
Right. And as a Korean citizen myself, I'll be looking forward to the promising future of the AI development in the country, as you said. Now, let's also touch upon the industry impact of this. So major companies like Hyundai, SK Hynix, and Naver are now securing large GPU reserves. Professor Kim, what kinds of changes should we expect in AI deployment across Korea's automotive, semiconductor, and also digital platform sectors?
So we first have to understand the significance of having provided this NVIDIA GPUs. So if you think about the COVID situation, we had a hard time securing vaccines at that time. So as an analogy, you can consider GPUs as a vital, computing chip for the development of AI. Korea has a lot to catch up with global tech leading AI standards, but in order to catch up, we need to have these GPUs to do the AI research and training, learning, etc. And without even having a forecast of how many GPUs we will have, it's really hard to build the AI strategy and roadmap of what these companies are going to do. So having secured at least understanding that we will have these GPUs, companies can more confidently build up on their AI strategy. Hyundai is working on smart automobiles, and Naver is working on their large language models. SK Hynix, they're working on manufacturing AI, device-level AI, edge AI, et cetera, et cetera. And so we really need these GPUs do the basic planning. So this is not just about advancing AI. In order to just do the basic planning, we needed these GPUs, and having secured these GPUs as a promise is a significant event as a long-term planning on the AI strategy of each of these industry sectors.
Right, so these GPUs could act as a stepping stone towards sector-wide transformation moving forward. So with regards to infrastructure now, so Samsung and SK are expected to build AI factories in partnership with NVIDIA. Professor Korea-Baksh, how is AI factory model different from traditional AI infrastructure? And also, could this initiative actually go beyond data centers to transform the industrial framework itself?
So AI infrastructure is basically the foundation, like the chips, the data centers, the cloud platforms that make it possible to build or run AI models. AI factories, on the other hand, are what you build on top of that foundation. They're organized systems that take all the computing power and turn it into useful AI products. For example, creating digital twins that can transform healthcare through organ simulations or precision robotic surgery. To understand why this is transformative, it helps to look at what kind of intelligence these systems are aiming for. A large language model like ChatGPT, it predicts the next word in a sentence. A world model predicts what is going to happen next in reality, like how a ball might roll or how people might react to an event. So in short, language models learn from words and world models learn from experience. That's why ChatGPT can write a poem or answer a question, but it cannot drive a car. Self-driving cars need a world model to understand and anticipate how the world works and how the world moves around them. So when we talk about AI factories, we are really talking about the next step, moving from just storing and processing data to actually producing AI systems that can interact with and reshape the real world. And as these digital systems fuse with traditional industries, we are likely to see a transformative leap in industrial efficiency, productivity, and innovation.
Right, so we're definitely seeing a lot of changes and involvement in terms of development, but some people are cautious right here. So some people warn that relying heavily on NVIDIA's hardware and also software ecosystem could actually lead to too much dependency in terms of technology. So Professor Kim, what's the best way for Korea to manage this risk and strike a sustainable balance?
So if you're talking about the semiconductor industry, we're really strong in memory chips, and we want to catch up on logic chips. But if you ask a question of whether there's an alternative to the NVIDIA ecosystem, we don't have an alternative at this moment. NVIDIA is a monopoly, and that's just the reality that we have to understand. Maybe in decades or maybe at some time, we might be able to manufacture NVIDIA grade level GPUs, but right now that's a really unrealistic discussion. Then what should we do in this kind of situation where NVIDIA sets the design standards and TSMC does the foundry, SK Hynix is only providing the HBMs to NVIDIA, and TSMC then again does the packaging. I think setting the technological standards is very important. So I would like to emphasize again, technological standards, because according to which kind of technological standards there are, some companies can meet those standards and some companies cannot meet those standards. So technological standards become an entry barrier itself for other companies to enter this semiconductor supply chain. So current companies, SK Hynix and Samsung Electronics, should jointly design the technological standard with NVIDIA and maybe also with TSMC, so that we can, develop this technology together and grow in this ecosystem. I think that is the best strategy to leverage the NVIDIA ecosystem. Of course, we have to be dependent, but in order to secure our position, collaborate with each other to co-develop the technological standards to lead this industry is very important, in my opinion.
Right, a very important point that you've mentioned, raising technological standards in parallel with NVIDIA through cooperation. That's a very important point. Now, let's address another criticism which is that the security GPUs are actually being distributed mainly to only large conglomerates. Professor Kim, do you think that's a fair concern, and what could help ensure startups and SMEs and small firms to also have access to these opportunities?
So it's a question of how we're going to drive innovation. Are you going to drive innovation with through conglomerates which have massive capital and resources, or are we also going to bet on startups that are very agile and can come up with creative ideas, have the passion to drive innovation, and maybe accidentally will show breakthrough? So in my opinion, I don't think that's really healthy to concentrate on these precious computing assets. It's not only industry assets, it's national assets to large conglomerates. We should set a quota for small and medium companies that are promising. We don't want to waste these chips, of course. So we should, distribute these chips allocated to a promising startup or a small medium enterprise that we believe that could make a technological breakthrough if they have these chips as a resource. So the government should really think about how they're going to distribute these national assets, industry assets across the ecosystem so that we achieve our goal that we want to become a AI giant in the world. The Lee administration is, very ambitiously saying that we will be the third biggest AI country in the world. Then how do you do that? Wise distribution, allocation of assets and resources throughout the ecosystem and industry supply chain.
Definitely. So access shouldn't only be stopped at the top of the pyramid. It should be allocated well. Now, speaking of the Lee administration, President Lee has proposed tripling Korea's AI budget to 10.1 trillion won in the next year's plan. So beyond the size of the budget itself, what are the most urgent foundational challenges Korea must address to enhance AI competitiveness, Professor Kim?
I think that's really bright that the Korean government is really taking care of this AI industry and willing to spend more budgets on this industry. But if we think about why our AI industry was behind the global standards, of course, not having NVIDIA GPUs might be one of the reasons, but that's not the only reason. We have our fundamental problems that we have to take care of. For example, we need more manpower, great manpower. We have very, very smart people in Korea, but we need more people to devote into the AI industry. And how do we cultivate those AI experts throughout our higher education system is a big question and a very important topic that we have to think about. So how do we cultivate our human skills is a big topic. And also we have to be very realistic in order to drive sovereign AI. We're talking about building AI chips and data centers, right? But where do we find the energy, electricity to drive AI? So AI development is the same word as electricity right now, because without electricity, we cannot run those data centers. So our energy mix has to be revisited, tailored to the AI development plan. And we also need social agreement on deregulating some laws that are restricting AI development. For example, our privacy law is too strict. We can't really do anything with individual data when it comes to AI development of the privacy data, then it's a question of, are we going to give a way that if it's a research purpose, we're going to be a little bit easy on these privacy laws. We need a lot of social agreement and also a discussion in the Congress of how to support the AI industry itself. It's not only about chips, it's not only about money. We need people, we need energy, we need deregulation to have these AI technology really see results. And more importantly, we have to build an ecosystem to connect government, industry, and academia, and not only domestically, internationally as well. So we have a lot of homework to do, and I hope that this 10.1 trillion Korean won can be a stepping stone to really think about those homeworks in a pragmatic, approach and come with keen solutions.
Let's definitely hope for that. What about Professor Kurabaksh? Do you have anything to add on how South Korea could, further advance and secure AI competitiveness?
How fast it can advance and secure AI I think that our lab has been focusing on AI safety for quite some time. And our research has revealed just how important it is to understand AI's limitations. In some of our recent studies that we found, there are a lot of issues in large language model outputs that they can have very anti-Semitic, racist, or misogynistic overtones, or they can hallucinate very basic facts or show undue agreement when the users are wrong. So as AI continues to grow, it will also reveal new and unexpected ways it can fail. So understanding those failure modes and building systems that are robust and transparent and self-aware, that will be critical to ensure we have a safe transition into an AI-powered society. And Korea already has an extraordinary pool of talent, but Dr. Kim said that we probably need more. And they have the resource base also coming soon. So the next step, I believe that it is to pair that innovation with introspection to build not just faster or larger AI, but trustworthy AI. Sustainable leadership in AI will belong to the countries that make safety, ethics, and responsibility their core competitive advantage.
Right, definitely. A very powerful note to conclude our discussion tonight. Thank you so much for your insights, Professor Kurabaksh.
Thank you.
And Professor Kim, of course, we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.